the bounty hunters. Come on, drop a few more degrees. I can't still barely make out the damn outlines, Slytherin mutters to himself as he tries to figure out exactly what those rivers of sheer heat are. Even without the plasma and laser bombardment, the creature had gone under. Those places would be so hot that dropping an egg on it would get you scrambled treat in about 3 seconds and burnt chunk of charcoal in 10. Thank God even substandard power armor is generally shielded from heat like that. Without it, there would be screams of pain and not surprise or exertion over the comms. The Imperial soldiers and the Crimson Hewers are coming together to clear out a general area of all the traps, tricks, and surprises the abomination has, making themselves a landing zone and fallback position. It's a good idea, but the fact that even with the sheer amount of damage, the creature is still outright ignoring them tells Slytherin that there's clearly more surprises. Granted, if that thing fills the entire superstructure, then the extent of the damage they've caused is less than was done to him by that snicked bitch that ate his face. Actually, now that he thinks about it, it is almost comparable. Sally is giving its face special attention, he's traumatized the mines even further, and the girls currently on the ship have taken away some extremities and sheared off some bits, much like his fingers and the barely visible distortions left in his tail. A few sheddings more, and he'll be rid of those markings entirely. Unlike this thing, with all the attention it has today, it's not getting out alive. Does it actually need those eyes? Asks as his eyes glance over the screen that shows the creature head on. A few of its eyes are popped thanks to Sally's efforts, but Hey, Sally? Yeah? Can you focus on the eyes a little more? I want to know if it's actually using them. He asks, and he views a half-dozen shot slam mostly around one of the eyes, and 2 of them slam into one of the orbs and the thing thrashes. Thanks. So it's feeling the pain and clearly is protecting its eyes. But there are no eyes I can see on the surface on it. And if the Axiom controlling part is seeing them, then why hasn't it acted? Why aren't the girls dodging lightning bolts, black holes, and fireballs? The readout on the Axiom side of things shows that the creature's is damn near a solid mass of it as it's devouring the local Axiom wholesale. Maybe that's why there's nothing in the way of Axiom effects. The living monster needs as much as it can get to stay alive, so adding new effects into the area will either cripple the creature or potentially induce a null cascade. The power armor of both the Crimson Hewers and the Imperial soldiers is interfering with the flow of the Axiom into the monster, but each one is like having a handheld bucket underneath a kilometer-wide waterfall. Sure, you're taking some water away, but it really isn't anything to brag about. Beyond not breaking your arm, or the bucket at any rate. Ladies, mixed news. I've just scanned the Axiom levels of the creature. It's so ravenous that any attempt to create an Axiom effect will have it eaten wholesale by the monster. The good news is that this will blunt, if not outright prevent hostile Axiom effects. The bad is that Adept reinforcements will be severely reduced in ability, Slytherin announces over the comm. You think too narrowly, Trainee Schmidt. An Adept does not need to form a fully stable Axiom effect to cause grievous harm to such a creature. Thank you for the information, an Imperial officer tells him. I advise caution. As I said, the Axiom consumption of the monster is as much a protection for our girls on it as it is going to get in their way. I understand that however the goal is to slay the creature, when it dies, it will cease drawing the Axiom anyways and lay our forces vulnerable regardless. We're merely accelerating things, the woman on the other side says. You girls heard that? We've got an Adept en route. Things are about to get exciting, Vexa calls out into the comms. Good. I'm halfway to falling asleep on my feet here, one of her sisters jokes. Right. Will everyone give the plating a bit more love? We need to make sure she doesn't land on a spike or otherwise upset her delicate constitution. Vexa sends. Thanks you for such a stalwart opinion of my endurance. A new voice in the network says in a tart tone, I'm just saying, so many races can't stomach good food, good fights, or anything else good in the galaxy. We're just looking out for your health. Vexa taunts. Oh, really? Well, stand back, Miss Canador. I'm going to show you why Guile Arcana are well-named and rightfully feared. I'm coming in hard and fast, the Adept says, and Vexa rolls her eyes before dodging something trying to shoot out between a pair of deck plates. I knew there were more. Gotcha, she exclaims as her sword bisects the thing, and she's forced to draw it back, as whatever this one was, it was full of the acid and slag. She runs what Axiom she can down the sword to clean it, but the metal is already stained and likely compromised. Ah, nuts. Something wrong? Scaly asks. New kind of mouthworm thing. I cut it lengthwise and I think it's compromised my sword. Damn, Scaly says. Yeah, I'm gonna freehand it from here on out. Don't want to snap my baby. I thought the armor was your baby. I can have more than one, Vexa protests. And the armor is easier to fix. A grind blade takes a lot of specialized and boring work to make properly. The armor is at least interesting to fix. Is this really the time for this conversation? The Adept asks over the link. Probably not, but calm conversation keeps morale up and stops panic on the battlefield. Slytherin says using the same answer he was given months ago. It had seemed so silly for him to hear so many jokes and casual conversations over the communication lines in life or death situations. Thankfully, the explanation made a good amount of sense. There is no response to the answer he just gave, but he witnesses something blur down from above and strike the mostly cleared area where the Crimson Hewers and Imperial soldiers have been fighting. I stand for LeBlanc, the Gil Arshana in power armor declares, before she throws her hands upwards and across the deck, well away from the fighting soldiers. The Axiom switches into electrical charges and slams into the monster all over as if it had suddenly found itself in the middle of a storm. The enormous creature outright shudders in pain. The first time it's been more than annoyed or inconvenienced by the damage being done to it. And then the Adept vanishes to reveal herself as an illusion as an invisible force slams through her and carves a trench into the damaged plating where she had been standing. She reappears to the side, having clearly anticipated and easily dodged the retaliation, and lets out a strange wave from her body. Soldiers to me! We move as an immaculate blade! Those cannons will be silenced! The Adept calls out. Bounty hunters, with us! We will cripple this abomination and leave it helpless beneath our swords! You heard the lady. Get moving! Vexa calls out even as the soldiers form a crescent formation in front of the Adept and begin to charge forwards. The Crimson Hewers take up the rear, and as defenses pop up and reveal themselves to find soldiers falling upon them, the Canadors rush forward and lend their assistance. The hull is outright shaved of its defenses as they approach the nearest cannon, and the soldiers stick their arm blades into the base and begin channeling the vibrations into the cannon as the Adept begins focusing. A pummeling force of lightning slams directly into the cannon, and the upper portions detonate. Crimson Hewers, your strength is needed! The girls move forwards and quickly wrench up the cannon from the base and send it crashing away. We sweep all these defenses, then we head to kill. Its engines! I want it toothless, legless, and helpless before our wrath. Ground team, the rivers of heat are shifting beneath you. The creature is retaliating. Scaly calls out into the comms. Scatter! Vexa calls out, and everyone books it. Just in time to avoid a massive geyser of acid and slag sheathed in electricity. It's adapting! Can it do that again? Vexa demands. It's building up more rivers of heat, but it will take some time before it has that much again. Scaly replies. Oh, what the? Incoming! It's releasing hostile flyers! Reform the blade! We are stronger together! The Adept calls out, and the soldiers rush together into the crescent shape once again. Trainee Schmidt, you will warn us when the acid below us builds again. Yes, also on your left. Flyers incoming! Scaly reports as the large wasp-like things rush towards them. Each one is roughly the size of a person's torso. The Crimson Hewers begin instantly bombarding the creatures with lasers and plasma, and where each one is hit with even a glancing blow, they detonate in a burst of the slag and acid. They're suicide bombers. Do not let them close. As entire swarms of the creatures rise up from the sides between the legs are either or used to be, a full half of them are suddenly engulfed in an electrical storm that shatters the creatures with bolts of lightning. The other swarm is met with a wall of plasma, lasers, and even a few supporting shots from Sally and the shuttle. Geyser incoming! Move! Scaly warns them all, and they all quickly shift positions to dodge another burst of slag and acid. Reform in advance! We're tearing the cannons out of their moorings, no matter what this beast attempts, the Adept calls out. Hey, how are you doing that? I took one look at those Axiom flows and just dismissed the idea of using Axiom effects on that thing, Scaly asks. Adepts work with the local Axiom, not against it. It's all moving to be consumed by this creature. I cannot make any complicated effect, but an energy alteration is not complicated. I also cannot aim, but I can begin the effects at a distance and make them more powerful. It then rips the energy into itself, whether it's the Axiom it needs to eat or the electricity that is harming it. And your storms is just you setting up a great many of them and using them again and again. Location is also important, otherwise intercepting the another wave of suicide bugs incoming. Scaly cuts her off. Like this, the Adept states, and she turns, and this time her movements are downright exaggerated as she seems to go into a dance. A massive storm covers half the deck and shatters every singly suicide insect. Dodge, Adept! Scaly calls out, and she scrambles to the side in a desperate move, almost entirely dodging a massive blast of acid and slag. Her armor saves her life, but takes severe damage as her thorax is badly scored. Are you all right? I am a soldier and Adept of the Empire. It will take more than that to fell me. We're hurting it. Continue the assault. Strip it of its fangs. They converge on the nearest two cannons simultaneously. This time, as the blasts of lightning shatter the cannons, the creature outright screams in pain. The creature is shifting. Tendrils are emerging from the sides, capped with burning metal. Scaly reports even as large tentacles reach out from the same pits where the swarms had come from. They're blocking the pathways the insects came from. I will report further changes. Where are the heat rivers? Vexa demands. They're no longer building up. The creature is either out of material or changing tactics. Move! The Adept orders, sweeping her arms and knocking back her forces in the Crimson Hewers and throwing them out of the path of another invisible attack that shatters the hull plating where everyone was standing moments ago. As they hit the ground and are out of the danger zone, the tentacles come down to try and kill them. The Crimson Hewers are up first and outright catch the massive stabbing tentacles. 3 to each of the 2 that are in range, they hold them off and save the lives of the soldiers before blasts of converted Axiom sever them in half, courtesy of the Adept.